Where are you starting? What tides are you looking for? What moon and all that?
Well, we talk about holdover tides, and which are soft tides, and we're going to have a shallow high tide followed by a high low tide. So we have a 5.4 high, maybe going down to a 2.7 low. So we're only going to have an outgoing flow of 2.7 feet over 6 hours. That's nothing. That's a half a foot an hour. So what'll happen is these fish will come in the morning in the dark and come on up here, and they'll either decide to swim up the Washington side or the Oregon side, or both, of course. And they'll start stalling out in these areas as they start noticing that the water's becoming more brackish and less salty. The ocean is so strong, it'll just shove them right up here. They don't even have to do anything but ride the tide, and they can go this far. But by the time they get this far, it'll be the river's turn to equalize, and it'll want to start flowing out. So we're going to have a morning high tide on a soft tide day, and we're going to want to concentrate on areas near the bridge on both sides of the bridge. So you've got the Shipwreck, Blind Slough area up here.
Yep, Shipwreck right here, kind of down here. Let's say the church is here. So that troll right there. And then on the Oregon side, you've got where just below the bridge, all the way up where the ships are normally anchored in these spots here. That troll, like you're working up to Tongue Point.
And it'll actually be, the channel will be on this side of the ships.
Okay.
But we're generally thinking about the 30-foot line. You're going to find people on the 22-foot line. And one thing about the river is that it's going to get shallower the closer we get to the sands here. So as long as we're on the Oregon side and start driving to the sands, we're going to notice that the river starts shallowing up, and we can find the 30-foot line that way.
So kind of like work towards you following that shelf, and when you find that shelf, kind of just turn and stay in the deeper part of it. So those fish may be coming up, seeing that sand, and dipping right down into that 30 feet.
Or 25 or 22 or whatever you want to fish, or maybe you might even want the deep water. We just have to go find out where they want to be that day. That's always a pretty good starting point, 30 feet. And we're going to have the same thing happen over here. The Blind Slough is going to have varying degrees of depth. And then when we get down below the bridge, we call this the Church Hole Run. And we have different stuff like the RV park and the Red Roof, the church, and then the state park.
And then out here you have things like Checkerboard, and there's different landmarks that if you don't know them, learn them. Try and find out where you're at. Always keep your bearing. Know where the sand dune is. You know, there's always somebody that gets out on there, and you see them out there waiting for the next high tide to get their boat out of the sand. And some really good people I know accidentally have gotten into that and thought they knew where they were going. So it's not just beginners, but this is, knowing the Checkerboard, the landmarks, the ice house, the wood pile, those kind of places, knowing what they're called and knowing where they are is going to make a big difference. And knowing all the different boat ramps, whether it's East Mooring Basin or Hammond or wherever it is, knowing where those backup boat ramps are. So if you do get in trouble, and let's say you're trying to get to East Mooring Basin and it's just blowing like crazy and you can't get out of it, you can know, we can just tuck right into Warrenton. Maybe just sit there until it gets better. Maybe call a cab, go get your truck and take it out of another ramp, which don't be afraid to do that, because that would be way easier than spending 3 hours in a washing machine.
That's definitely going to be a lot safer, but my advice is to know up front what's going to happen in the afternoon. Know that when you get to that 1:30, 1 o'clock time frame, it's very likely the wind's going to start picking up. You should be able to find that on one of your weather apps like Windfinder, what we were talking about earlier. And then we can plan on being in the right spot. If we've got a southwest wind coming up from the ocean over Hammond and Warrenton, maybe we want to set up here along the Green Can line.
Yeah, this is the Youngs Bay area here, and there's a green can. There's a border there which is closed.
Bay, yeah.
Yeah, you want to know that so you can have the wind to your back if you're getting back to East Mooring Basin versus trying to take it over the bow and sitting there running home on your kicker. Right?
Yeah, we can take this area in here. Hammond is going to be right in here, and you've got the ice house, the rendering plant, And then, of course, you've got right here is going to be the sawdust pile, or the cedar chip pile, we call it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of protected area where the wind's going to blow over you here. Maybe you can get a little bit more fishing in the afternoon without having to worry, and especially if you're moored here or you put in at Warrenton or Hammond, it's an easy, safe way to get back. You don't want to be coming, you don't want to be over here at the shipwreck with the southwest wind in the afternoon and then trying to figure out how to get over an ebbing tide, which is an outgoing tide with heavy rollers and wind blowing right in your face. It's a real dangerous proposition. And you've got to get all the way down here below the sands before you can cut back over. So that's just terrible planning to be on the wrong side of the river.
Exactly. The best piece of advice I can give: number one, always wear your life vest at buoy 10. And number two, if you can stay near your boat ramp and fish and catch fish, you're going to save money, be safer, it's going to be easier. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about buoy 10 riggings. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.